Hi, welcome back. Today's story from the Jesse tree is called Dumbstruck. We're getting pretty far into the book now. It won't be long before we get to the end. So, Dumbstruck. Mr. Butterfield waited. He did not know what he was waiting for exactly, but he waited. Just when he finally had a chance to work undisturbed, he couldn't seem to get going. He had nearly reached the crown of the Jesse tree, the boughs in which he would carve the family of Jesus himself, and yet Mr. Butterfield waited. And the longer he waited, the more restless he grew. His big shoes crunched the dust up and down the aisle, and Eva took him up to the altar to gaze at the figures in the stained glass windows. As the light faded behind the windows, the saints and the apostles melted away. But Mr. Butterworth sat down where he was, in the soft gloom, waiting. "Are you allowed up there?" It was the boy. "So long as I show respect," said Mr. Butterfield. The bones of his knees clicked as he stood up. Once upon a time, only the priest came past the altar rail. People are not so strict nowadays. He waited for the boy to ask for a story. In the Temple of Jerusalem, only certain priests could go into the Holy of Holiest, the sacred center. It was hidden out of sight by a curtain. Jesus' uncle Zechariah wasn't allowed in there, even though he worked in the temple. Zechariah loved his work, loved his wife Elizabeth, and loved living in Jerusalem. He was a man at peace, except that he had no children, and more than anything, Zechariah wanted a son. Mr. Butterfield broke off. He was like you mean, said the boy. Go on. Zechariah loved the temple, its soft gloom, its starry candle flames, its heady scent of incense, the quiet babble of voices discussing the scriptures. There were things in there so precious and so ancient that they filled him with wonder. But when Zechariah first saw the figure standing beside the altar of incense, he was taken aback. "Greetings, Zechariah," said the stranger with the candle-lit face. "And congratulations. You are about to become a father." Zechariah almost laughed, almost wept. All his life he and Elizabeth had longed for a child. Now it was far too late. Don't make fun of me. I'm old. How could we? But the figure cloaked in sweet-smelling smoke held up a hand. "You must call him John. He will herald the coming of the Messiah, the Savior. He will be a voice shouting in the wilderness." At that, Zechariah put a hand to his throat and another to his heart, his aching, thundering heart. The handful of people praying in the temple looked up as Zechariah stumbled forward. His eyes were full of light, candlelight. His hands fluttered like doves, his mouth opening as if to speak, but no words came out. Zechariah had been struck dumb. Even when his wife, Elizabeth, half amazed, half terrified, whispered to her husband that she was expecting a child, Zechariah could only grin and nod and scratch his joy on a wax tablet using a stylus. His writing looked like angels flying across the white wax. "So, who was that stranger?" asked the boy. "Well, bless me, an angel, of course. The angel Gabriel, I guess. God's special messenger. That's how I like to think of Gabriel. I picture him breaking the news to Zechariah, then strolling down the road to Nazareth, taking weeks about it, but whistling all the way to speak to Mary. So So why did the angel not just tell everyone? Said the boy. He could have saved himself lots of tramping about. Why didn't Angel Gabriel just roll back the sky and shout, "Folks, he's coming! The rescuer! You're a superhero!" Mr. Butterfield scratched his chin with his chisel thoughtfully. Maybe it's not everyone who can see angels. Maybe it's only certain people. You could be right, said the boy with an odd smile, which he seemed to brush off with one hand and slip into his shirt pocket along with the sawdust. We'll continue this tomorrow.